Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Peter here, and today we're looking at Masque Milano. It's an Italian based brand and I've heard good things from this brand. I see them posted quite often on Instagram and things like that, and chit chatter on Facebook. So I was curious about checking them out. They were really kind and actually sent me the samples for a review, so thank you very much. And we're going to do first impressions, and then I'll probably review a couple of the ones that are my favourites. We have 10 samples to go through, and I'll go through each one telling you the notes and kind of what it gives to me and kind of who I think it would suit. The sample packets look like this. Quite minimalist with the note presentation on the back. And the first one I picked up is called TERRALBA. And yeah, the notes for this are top notes of clary sage, lemon, green tangerine with heart notes of myrtle, thyme, curry leaves, everlasting flower, base notes of lentisk, juniper, cypress and cedarwood. It's kind of a bright top. You definitely get the citrus in the opening. It's a little aromatic, kind of in a herbal way. You definitely get a mix of the clary sage and the citrus, really. I quite like the, I kind of like that aromatic herbal kind of tone. Because of that, it does smell more masculine. It doesn't jump across as smelling feminine or particularly unisex. It leans on the masculine. It smells more mature to me, and I would say this is a mature, kind of classical kind of fragrance. It smells like a woody, spicy aromatic to me with a fresh opening that would be better suited to spring, autumn and winter. For a night out, or maybe even dressed up in a suit. That one I think is a good choice for an older gentleman that wants to smell a little bit more classical, woody aromatic, fresh, it's definitely, I would say, more of a crowd pleaser that's not too crazy where you might upset people. It's generally likable by most people. I think that's a fairly safe fragrance that way. Next up is Tango. And this has notes of bergamot, black pepper and cardamom with sambac jasmine absolute, damask rose oil, cumin and patchouli in the heart with base notes of vanilla bean, amber accord, leather accord, benzoin and musks. The colour of the juice is nice. It's quite a rich colour. So we'll give this one a spritz. This one is definitely amber based. Straight off the bat you get a rich, sweet amber. Not hugely original. There is a lot of fragrances that go this territory. In fact, I own one. It reminds me straight away of a little bit of Cobalt Amber by Abel. It is a soft, very pleasant, very comfortable, cozy, soft, sweet amber that is definitely unisex. There was something in the opening actually came off a little bit almost boozy in a way. I don't particularly get the spices though. The spices, I get, if anything, a hint of the cardamom, but it's subtle, it's a subtle element. If anything, the cardamom gives it a slight cooling freshness with this warm, balsamic-y, soft, sweet amber accord underneath. That one is definitely unisex, very pleasant, very likable. I would imagine most people would like that. That one is, again, feels quite safe. I can imagine most people like that, but it's not hugely original. There are lots of fragrances that smell of a sweet amber, but it's very pleasant. Definitely unisex. And if you like amber fragrances, you might want to check that one out. That one to me smelled more casual and a winter fragrance, really. Can't pronounce this one because my French, or is it Italian? I'm not sure. But my pronunciation is terrible, so I'll put it up on the screen. But it has notes of Italian bergamot, neroli, champagne accord with heart notes of Italian iris root butter, French iris root butter, Italian iris absolute, tuberose absolute and ylang ylang. I know from personal experience that real iris butter is very expensive, so if they're using genuine real, like the names would suggest that they do, this would be an expensive fragrance. Base notes Mysore sandalwood, oak moss and leather accord. So there's some seemingly very good quality notes in this one. Very, very, very heavy cosmetic iris. This smells straight up like Click lipstick. Full on feminine lipstick. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of the cosmetic irises, the ones that smell overly lipsticky. This one smells like a massive block of lipstick. This could be, if you love iris, this could be your holy grail fragrance. I would say definitely check this one out if you're a fan of iris. This is iris on steroids, but quite cosmetic, at least from the opening. It would be interesting to see how that dries down and changes, if it does or not. It might get a little bit more creamier in the dry down with the sandalwood going off the notes, with a leather accord. I mean, people that kind of like the Dior Homme line, Dior Homme Parfum and all those, with the thick cosmetic iris and lipstick, you might really enjoy this one. For me, this particular one leans on the feminine because of the obvious similarity to lipstick, but definitely if you are a fan of iris and you like that kind of cosmetic tone, you would really love that one. I've no doubt. That one for me could be formal, it could be casual, it could be daytime or nighttime, depending how much you spray. But I just wouldn't wear it in the summer. But certainly autumn and winter would be the highlight for me on that particular fragrance. It is quite thick, quite heavy sitting, very cosmetic, like I say, waxy, buttery lipstick. But yeah, it'd be an iris lover's dream though. Next up is LUCI Ed Ombre. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation, I'm very sorry. This one is split up a little differently. It says light notes of incense, cradle and karma of soaring light, with the mid notes of being ginger, tuberose, jasmine and moss, with, in quotation marks, in the heart of the opera, the emotional continuum of the human being between desire and perpetual quest of oneself, and dark notes of incense, wounded body, human lymph, deep and restless truth. So it basically has top notes of incense, base notes of incense, and mid notes of ginger, tuberose, jasmine and moss. I do like incense fragrances quite a lot of the time, so this will be interesting. This is a lot lighter than I expected it to be. It's not a hugely pungent incense fragrance by any means. It's quite mellow actually. I get nuances of soft florals, the tiniest faint hint of ginger. The incense note is very light. It's not a smoky incense, it's not a thick heavy incense, it's not an incense that reminds you of a Catholic church, it's not heavy on frankincense, it's none of that. Really, I'm smelling just a hint of floral, white floral, so it would be the tuberose, and a wisp of ginger. And a more of a soft kind of, I would say more of a resinous incense, if anything. This one I would say is unisex, but I struggle to describe it. It doesn't have huge character. Although it's pleasant, it might not blow your socks off. It might not be one that you are bowled over by. It is quite mellow and a little generalized in its scent profile. It's not particularly specific, but it's definitely pleasant. And I would say spring, autumn, winter and unisex, and I'm sorry I can't describe it hugely much better than that. It is a mellow, soft, white floral, a hint of fresh ginger with some kind of a ambery like incense rather than a smoky one or kind of a more frankincense-y based churchy incense. It's none of that. It's more of an ambery, soft, mellow incense. The next one is called the Romanza, with notes of absinthe, which is a cool, interesting note, orange blossom, angelica, and the mid notes, which they called the soul, hedonist bouquet of narcissus, violet leaves and jasmine, with base notes of decadent woods, vetiver, cedarwood and patchouli, with an amber accord and myrrh. The absinthe isn't too strong, it's not... I do have an absinthe note. It's a mellow element. There's a soft greenness to this fragrance. I do get the floral nuances, This is definitely more of a floral fragrance with nuances of a soft green texture to it, kind of just on top of the floral accord, and the floral elements do smell more feminine. So I would say this leans on the feminine. I quite like it. I think it would smell good on a woman. I'm not hugely convinced it's hugely over masculine. I'm sure there is men that would happily wear it though. For me, it leans on the masculine. Pretty floral. If you like floral fragrances, check it out. For me, this one leans feminine and it's quite nice. I quite like it. The floral element has a subtle soft sweetness to it. You can almost smell the texture of the petal actually. Like you could imagine chewing the petal and it being kind of soft and textured. You get a thick kind of soft squidgy petal kind of texture to the smell with this kind of soft kind of greenness around it. Interesting. It's like a little bit like smelling kind of feminine flowers with the green leaves still attached. But the green leaves would be kind of a little bit furry or hairy, kind of soft textured green leaves. It has that kind of softness to the green element and the floral. Interesting. I mean, if the notes sound appealing, I'm presuming I've never smelled narcissus, so maybe that's what I'm smelling. But if it is, then it's quite pretty floral. I would say it must be more than that than it is jasmine, because obviously I know what jasmine smells like. This one is a little bit more interesting than just jasmine, so yeah, interesting. Floral, more feminine, and spring, autumn I would say as ideal seasons. Dressed up or casual, I think it would be quite smart, dressed up nicely for a woman. Yeah, it's quite nice, it's pretty. Romanza, I like that one, but more feminine. Next up is MONTECRISTO with notes of Cabriuva, I have no idea what that is, ambrette seed and rum, with heart notes of tobacco leaf, celery seed, cistus and benzoin, with base notes of golden stone, styrax gum, gaiac wood, cedarwood and patchouli. Okay, so this one isn't overly boozy in my opinion, which is good because I'm personally not a fan of boozy fragrances. I don't hugely smell a whole lot of rum. That is more of a subtle element, although there is a tinge of I would describe it more of an ambery boozy accord without smelling alcoholic. Like, it doesn't smell straight up rum, but you do get a boozy kind of amberiness to it. This is definitely more about the resins for sure. I would describe this from a first impression, dark golden amber fragrance. I do pick out nuances of the tobacco. I would say it leans on the masculine, although I would consider it unisex. This is a resinous, deep amber fragrance with nuances of dark woods. I can pick up a little bit of the gaiac and cedar. The cedar comes across more like a Virginian or Texas cedar, where you get the kind of the grain of the wood rather than kind of the balsamic milkiness of like Atlas cedar. This has the dark rough texture of the wood. You did get a hint of a smoky gaiac coated in this kind of amber note. So if you like amber with some dark woods, then this is one to check out. But because of that, it does lean on the masculine, and I would consider it more of a cold weather fragrance, autumn and winter. I quite like that one though. Yeah, I think the wood notes help make that one more interesting. If it was just the amber, I think it would be boring, but the subtle nuances of the gaiac and cedar do give it a little bit of a nicer character, and yeah, it's quite cool. For kind of an autumn winter fragrance, that might be a good one. But you need to like amber and you need to like woody notes. Next one is Times Square, which has hazelnut accord, glossy lipstick, osmanthus absolute, China LMR, not sure what that is, tuberose absolute, India LMR, with base notes of sandalwood from Australia, gajak oil, and styrax and from Honduras. So yeah, we'll give this a go. First thing that hits me is the iris, and again leaning on the cosmetic side of iris. You get the iris note with a little bit of floral, not too much of the hazelnut, although I get kind of a nuance of it, but I wouldn't say it's a major note. It's not going to hit you in the face with hazelnuts. If you kind of think about it, you can kind of pick it out and go, oh yeah, kind of hazelnutty. But if it wasn't written down, I doubt anyone would be saying hazelnut. But you definitely get iris, you definitely get the florals, and if you look for it, once it's mentioned, you get a kind of a sense of a slight hazelnut-like note. This one smells feminine, and it smells like spring and autumn to me. Kind of versatile in the sense that it could be casual or dressed up. I think that would be even work appropriate. You could wear that to the office if you wanted to, or on, you know, a night out and a date. The iris isn't hugely cosmetic where it's going to remind you of a block of lipstick like the last iris-based fragrance. This one isn't quite like that, but it is a slightly cosmetic-y kind of iris mixed with the osmanthus and tuberose. It has more of a floral nature behind it. More feminine, spring, autumn. Next up we have Mandala with notes of frankincense, nutmeg, angelica, heart notes of cardamom, cinnamon, clove, citrus, cedar and incense, with base notes of myrrh, sandalwood, oak moss tincture and natural ambergris. So it's cool that they use natural ambergris. They've obviously liked to use slightly higher quality ingredients than some niche brands. Wow, this one's potent. Jesus, this one is strong. Whew, I get a lot of frankincense off the top. Very, very strong frankincense. I get the spices. I would say a fairly even mix of the cardamom, cinnamon and clove. No one in particular kind of jumps out, but it does smell kind of spiced with this kind of punch of incensey, Catholic church-like frankincense. Okay, so from a first impression, it is a church-like frankincense incense accord with kind of rich spices underneath it, which gives it quite a potent kind of opening. It's mellowed down a little bit now, but very, very, very church incensey. If you like church incense kind of notes, and obviously particularly frankincense, then you might like it. I can think of a couple of fragrances that go in a similar direction. Memo Paris have a new one that's also based heavily on frankincense. This is one to check out if you're an incense lover. Definitely colder weather, autumn, winter. And I don't see why a woman couldn't wear that if she didn't, you know, if she wanted to, if she likes incense. It doesn't particularly smell like a gender to me, so to speak. Whoever could pull that off. I suppose maybe some people might find it a little bit more in the masculine, but it will remind you of something like a Catholic church. The next one is called Russian Tea. And this has mint, black pepper and raspberry, with black tea, magnolia and everlasting flower, base notes of leather accord, incense, birchwood and labdanum. You definitely get the tea straight off the bat, but in the opening, I've tried these all before. The opening of this one is more like, I would describe as one of those kind of fruit infusion herbal teas. You definitely get a nuance of the raspberry. It smells more like a fruity herbal tea, like a green tea, like a straight up kind of raspberry, fruity, green herbal tea. But it changes. I remember this one changes after 20 minutes, half an hour. It changes, it loses the fruitiness, it loses that kind of green herbal tea smell, and goes into smelling more like a traditional dark black tea. You actually smell black tea. So if you're a tea fan, that is definitely a fragrance you would want to check out. I'm not particularly, although I like the smell of tea, it's not something that I would want to wear as a perfume myself personally. But I would definitely recommend it if you're a tea lover. That is a good example of a tea-based fragrance that's very true to how tea smells, basically. You know, you're going to smell like a fruity green herbal tea, you know, hints of raspberry, and then it dries down into kind of a soft black tea. If you like tea fragrances, it's definitely one to check out anyway. The last one from the collection is called Hemingway, and this one has notes of ginger oil, rhubarb, vetiver again, There's 3 different vetiver oils in here, including from Haiti and Java, and also cedarwood oil, patchouli, and leather. So with this one, you get vetiver immediately, and it's a nice vetiver. I like it. It reminds me of Vetiver Extraordinaire by Frederick Malle. It's a similar vetiver note. So this one it's not an earthy vetiver. It has hints of that. I would describe this as having nutty nuances. Certain vetiver oils can have a nutty kind of tinge to it. This is a rooty, woody vetiver with kind of a nutty nuance rather than the kind of the darker, rough, earthy vetivers. And some vetivers can be quite green as well. This one is woody, rooty, and a little bit nutty. It's the best way to describe the vetiver here. A wisp of ginger, but it's a wisp. It's not a strong note at all. It's just a hint of ginger with a lot of vetiver. If anything, I smell again a little bit of what I would say is probably either Texas or Virginian cedar. You get the roughness of the wood there, the grain of the cedar mixing with that vetiver. This is a woody fragrance through and through. I personally quite enjoy vetiver, and this one is nice. Because of the nature of vetiver, I feel, and how it's used in perfume, this one comes across to me on the masculine side, although I would consider it unisex. There's no reason why a woman couldn't wear this, but it does lean, in general, for people, I would say it's on the masculine. Too many nuances. It comes across simplistic, it's minimalist, it's woody, it's vetiver. That hint of ginger gives it a slight freshness in the opening. It's kind of like a woody aromatic, so to speak, focusing on vetiver for cold weather, autumn, winter. Probably, I would say, I reckon you could pull it off dressed up or casual, and maybe even pull it off in the workplace if you don't spray too heavily. I wouldn't overspray it, but like 1 or 2 sprays. If you're in a suit, I think that would work well personally. These kind of woody aromatics, I think would work well kind of dressed up like that. But also I can imagine it in jeans and a t-shirt as well. Very nice, I like that one. Although not hugely complicated, not hugely complex, but nice. If you like vetiver, cedar, you like woody kind of fragrances, that's one to check out at least. So bringing up the pricing structure, I immediately are quite impressed because they price individually, seemingly based on formula. So the ones with cheaper ingredients are actually cheaper to buy. The ones with better quality ingredients are a little bit more expensive. I like that. I wish more brands would do that instead of having a baseline price based on their kind of their highest value perfume, and then you're overpaying for the lower quality ones. These are individually priced. I think that's a good, a more honest business tactic. I approve of that. Good stuff. The lowest one I found is a £97 sterling for a 35ml. So pretty reasonable. The middle ground seems to be an average £112 for a 35ml, and the most expensive one I found scrolling through was £124 for a 35ml. So this is cheaper than Nasomatto, which are 30ml for currently about £125, £124, but you're getting 5ml less for the Nasomatto for the highest price of Masque Milano. So in terms of competition in the niche market, I think they're fairly competitively priced, personally. Obviously, they're going to be a little bit expensive for some people, but in terms of quality of the things that I'm smelling, it is not bad value, especially comparing it, like I say, to Nasomatto, where you're getting 5ml more than Nasomatto for actually a little bit less money. The quality of the ingredients is probably higher than Nasomatto in my opinion. So yeah, there's some nice naturals in there. They're definitely mixed media, no doubt, but there are some quality ingredients, and yeah, they use better ingredients than some niche brands do, and the pricing not bad. So maybe, get yourself a sample pack if you're interested. I think, like I say, I like that they're priced individually, and I think it's relatively fair pricing. for what I'm smelling. That's it. Hope you enjoyed my first impressions. If you want me to review a particular one, let me know in the description and I'll go ahead and do a full review later, but I probably have 3 or 4 that I will get around to doing full reviews for at some point in the future. So I would say my 2 favourites are the tea-based fragrance, although I wouldn't probably wear it myself, but it's one that I would recommend to people quite easily, comfortably. I would recommend that one if you're into tea fragrances. My personal favourite would be Hemingway. I quite like woody aromatics recently. I've recently kind of really enjoying kind of sampling Creed's Royal Oud. Not the same, but still a woody aromatic. I like vetiver. I like the kind of more woody cedar woods. So that is one that I would wear myself, definitely in the colder weather. It's quite nice. And my least favourite would have been Mandala. That one is a little bit wild. The frankincense is not tame. Someone needs to put a saddle on it and just chill it out a little bit. It's like, whew, it's intense. There's some part of it that I don't like, even though I like the note of frankincense on its own. This has something going on it has a classic men's cologne style note underneath the church incense that I'm not a fan of, and I can't quite put my finger on what is causing that. So that one is my least favourite. But if you like churchy incense fragrances that are non-apologetic, with kind of maybe a cologne-y tinge in the background of that, then you probably really like it if you like, you know, churchy incenses, but it's not for me. That one for me, just not my personal taste. I would say a few of them in general are not really hugely my particular taste, you know, I have to be honest. But I can tell they're all pretty good materials in general, and it feels like there's a little bit of something for everyone there. It covers kind of a lot of ground, and there's a lot of kind of choice there of styles, but there's none that's particularly crazy or avant-garde or hugely artistic. They're more simple and minimal ideas executed well with nice quality materials. Check them out if you can get samples, if any of them sounded appealing. Hope you enjoy the video. That'll be it. If there's any that you want me to review in the future, let me know in the comments and I'll make an effort to do that. Otherwise, I'll just pick probably just a couple of my favourites to review fully later. Hope you enjoy the video and I'll see you again next time. Take care everyone. Bye.